This presentation is on Australian mining company BHP based on sustainable development goals and implementing them to create a better performance for the company. I am analyst SHUBHAM KHANDURI. Let's get started. So BHP is an Australian mining company founded in 1885. It's the largest company in the world with 80,000 employees with operations in America, Peru, Brazil, Canada, amongst others. They deal in iron ore, nickel, and coal and potash mainly. Now, looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, these are goals given by United Nations for preservation of Earth and humanity's future and environmental heritage. So looking at BHP's supply chain here, we can see that they're quite exploitative and cause a lot of pollution. So what's their approach to sustainability? It's based on these three tenets here: value chain, ESG initiatives, and reports. So BHP's value chain is consisting of responsible sourcing, process stewardship, and product stewardship. So from the beginning to the end, they are all about sustainable initiatives, which are summarized here in these 5 different tenets of their ESG initiatives. So looking at these, we can see they align with SDGs quite perfectly. We've got healthy environment decarbonization here, which focuses on greenhouse gas emission reduction and focuses on biodiversity and environmental mapping as well, which is good for the earth and climate. We have indigenous partnerships here, which focus on decent work and economic growth by providing indigenous workforce with some employment and involving indigenous leaders in co-design of spaces. Safe and inclusive workspace focuses on representation of women in workforce, which is at 37% currently for BHP, and sexual harassment elimination programs, as well as fatality elimination program, which include more SDGs into their operations, and responsible supply chain dynamic, which means that they are using external standards here for creating a supply chain from the beginning to the end, from inbound to the outbound supply chain, and providing a very sustainable framework for it to function. Now looking at areas where BHP can improve its sustainability is in creating communities for indigenous people who live around the land, the mining land, and who live around in communities around these mining lands or who were previous inhabitants of these communities. They can work on reforestation of mining land, ensure that the water used in mining, which is quite heavily used, is processed and cleaned and then supplied to communities if possible. And then they can involve indigenous people in pre-mining research before they actually go to a place and start mining it. They can involve these people to understand their perspectives about how mining would affect them and reduce damage from mining in developing countries where they already have their operations in. So as we can see here in this picture, on the right hand side and left hand side, we've got 2 different spaces. The right hand side is Chile, which is a developing country, and you can see the impact of mining there as well as in Canada, but it seems to be less severe over there. So we need to work on this. Recommendations for BHP are that they need to do due diligence of their supply chain procurement, where they're getting from, what they're getting from, ethical or not, very important for them. Human rights adherence in developing countries is very important, as there have been issues with this before. They need to reduce the greenhouse gases levels as per their commitments in their annual reports. Involve themselves in less corruption in developing countries, which has again been an issue. Need more indigenous representation in decision making, and understanding the impact of their product on the environment and the future products also on the environment. So how do we measure SDG impact of BHP here? So we use the United Nations SDG Compass to understand what the impact was and utilize it to assess it properly. We use the Sustainable Development Solution Network's guide to formulate strategy based on these goals, how we can use the strategy to implement SDGs into our day-to-day operations effectively. Here are some KPIs that BHP will be using to evaluate their SDG impact in the future. They will be measuring and reporting on GHG emissions, indigenous leadership in internal decision making, and shipping globally through better technology. And they will be reporting on sustainability initiatives from time to time, as well as land and water resources annually. Conclusion is that BHP has implemented a strong culture of corporate responsibility, and they're giving a strong message of their willingness to work on sustainable initiatives, which is really good. They just need to work on a couple of other aspects of their operations and they're good to go. So thank you very much for watching this presentation. I am SHUBHAM KHANDURI, and I hope you learned something from this today. Thank you.